Isaiah West and Quincy Porter are the latest players to join the Buckeyes 2025 recruiting class.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, here on Monday, June 17th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Locked On's recruiting analyst, LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. When Ohio State hired Carlos Locklyn, many people were wondering if what he did at Memphis and what he did at Oregon would translate to Ohio State. The early belief was yes, that it would. His recruiting, the way he develops players, those things would translate. But then it's what's actually going to happen to see if it does. Carlos Locklyn came to Ohio State and instantly made an impact during his first presser. People were oohing and eyeing at what he was saying. And now we're seeing his impact early on in his career at Ohio State in his recruiting, as the Buckeyes got a commitment from Bo Jackson recently, but just a day ago got a commitment from Isaiah West, three-star back, a guy that is a dog, a guy that is a whole lot better than his recruiting rankings, and a guy that after his official visit to Ohio State realized, hey, I ain't wasted no more time. I'm committing right now. You all know all the time I want to make a statement about these rankings. I don't really care what you're rated. What does your film tell me? And as we touched on Friday with Brian Smith on the show, his recruiting ranking, this is Isaiah West, it'll show you, hey, this guy's a three-star. This guy is not a top 150 or top 300 or top 400 recruit. So saying, oh, he's not on Ohio State's radar, or he should not be. But when you see he's taking an official visit to Ohio State. He was previously committed to Kentucky. You might think, just like me, why do the rankings not show up in the schools that are recruiting him and what we see on the film? And what we see on the film is a guy who stands at 5'11", about 210 pounds, who is a very physical runner, always falls forward. He does the things that you want from your running back, and ultimately, he has somewhat of an old school running style, if you may want to put it that way, for those that know or thinking, hey, what kind of era does he fit in when it comes to the way that he recruits, or the way that he runs the football? More of an old school running style. He's a very powerful runner. Not only is he powerful, but he's patient. And his powerful running style and his patience allow him to figure out, let the blocks develop. He gets through the line, and he rarely goes down at first contact. And those are things, when you think about Carlos Locklyn, the way that he coaches, the way that he speaks, the way that he wants his players to play, the way that he looks at recruits. He's literally on the record for saying he don't want no soft batch cookie in his room. Not at all. Not my words. Those are his words. Why? Because that's the way he is looking to describe the players that he wants in his room. And ultimately, when I watch Isaiah West play, I believe he's the kind of guy that Ohio State, Locklyn, Alford don't matter. Ryan Day, Urban don't matter. I believe he is the kind of guy they want in his room. Now, when I think about his recruitment, it's a little bit interesting because I look at the recruiting rankings and where 247 Sports Composite has him, and it really doesn't line up with where he is currently, the way he plays the football. Isaiah West took an unofficial visit to Ohio State on May 12th. At this point in time, he was already committed to Kentucky, but of course, when you're committed, you can still take visits. Took a visit to Ohio State on his own dime. 2 days after that visit, he decommits from Kentucky, and the only official visit he had scheduled was to Ohio State. Now, this is a guy that won the Under Armour camp in 2023 in that region where he was at. So he is a player. He is really, really good. So why would he only schedule one official visit, and why would it only be to Columbus? Because that was a spot for him. He believed after that unofficial decommitting from Kentucky, this was the place He wanted to play football. And that speaks volumes not only about Carlos Lockleyn, who we're going to talk about later in today's show, but going to talk about really what Ryan Day is currently building. That's going to be the theme of the entire show, basically, because Ryan Day is building something special right now in 2024, which is showing up in the 2025 recruiting class. Because Ryan Day could have come into the season, had some unfortunate games, things didn't go our way, close loss to Georgia, things haven't gone our way sometimes in the playoff, 8-7 against top 10 opponents during his tenure at Ohio State. Man, this just doesn't go. How about we just do the same old thing and not change things up? And hopefully the ball bounces our way. And when the ball bounces our way, hopefully it bounces our way and it stays our way. We get a few more wins. And over the next 5 games, the Buckeyes are playing top 10 opponents instead of the 8-7 previously. The Buckeyes are 4-1. And the narrative about Ryan Day continues to change. Why? Because the ball is just going his way. That could easily have been what Ryan Day wanted to do. No. Ryan Day realized you can't do the same old thing and expect a different result. You can't do that. So what did Ryan Day do? Change some things via the coaching staff, even things that myself, I did not think Ryan Day needed to change some of the things that he changed, but he did by changing some coaches. Tony Alford. Now, Tony Alford was under contract. Did not get a multi-year contract extension, only got a 1-year contract extension, ended up going to the rival, the biggest rival the Buckeyes have. Okay, cool. He went up to Ann Arbor. And then Perry Eliano is no longer there. Okay, cool. In comes Matt Guerrieri. And what do you find? Oh, need a new OC? Bill O'Brien leaves. Oh, who is that guy? Chip Kelly. Ryan Day is saying who? We're going to go out there and not just get a guy or one of the better guys. We're going to go out there and get somebody who fits us now and is the right guy or one of the right guys for the team right now. And I think when it comes to Lockleyn and Guerrieri and Kelly, all the guys that are on the coaching staff, it just goes to show that Ryan Day is realizing we have to fix things now, quick, fast, and in a hurry. And if we're going to change it with the coaching staff, how about that trickle into our recruiting as well? And now you're seeing guys like a Bo Jackson, like an in-state quarterback in Tavian St. Clair, like a lot of other guys in Nate Roberts from Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma, who is a part of the 2025 recruiting class, and other guys in Naeem Alford and Devin Sanchez, and these elite guys. Ryan Day is saying, hey, look, we have to put our efforts in different areas. We have to fix some things quickly if we want to make a difference now that shows up on the field in the future, in the fall first, but also every single season after this. Ryan Day has changed some things. It showed up in Isaiah West's recruitment and his commitment, and it also showed up in Quincy Porter's decision to make a decision about his future playing college football a month earlier than expected. What changes went into Quincy Porter moving that commitment date up and committing to Ohio State over the weekend? We'll dive into that next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more, and the best service in Central Ohio. And guys, check this out. Billiards Plus carries grills that have up to 30-year warranties. That's right, a grill with a 30-year warranty. Everything you need for in-home and backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. And the grills, Whether you like charcoal or gas or wood-fired, Billiards Plus has a perfect setup for all grillers. They are family owned and operated. And when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you know you're talking to an expert who will not steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kitty, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus, visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you are someone that is always looking to hear some things going on behind the scenes in sports media, Dan Dockett recently had an interview with Dan Patrick, and Dan Patrick shed some light on some things going on with ESPN that you will want to listen to or watch. Recently caught the interview, and as I was reading and thinking about ESPN and people listening to the shouting all day, Dan Patrick, shed some light on that very topic on our I caught the audio portion of the podcast of the show. It's really good. Trust me. Go check it out. Also, some things you'll want to check out are Quincy Porter's film. He's a dog. He is a really, really, really good outside receiver, and so good. Brian Hartline wanted him and got him to commit to Ohio State really, really quickly. The original commitment date that Quincy Porter had set up was July 14th. Now, he took an official visit to Ohio State during the second official visit window or weekend that the Buckeyes are hosting official visits. And a few days after, he said, hey, I ain't waiting a month from now. I'm going to make this commitment now. He even canceled, y'all going to like this part, he even canceled an official visit to Michigan and said, oh no, moving this commitment date up. I'm not going to Ann Arbor. I am going to be another one of those Jersey kids that plays football at the Ohio State University. And when I watch this film, you probably have watched this film as well. If you have not, I highly encourage you to do it because Quincy Porter can play. He is one of those guys that can be one of the next great, and I don't throw this out lightly, great outside receivers at Ohio State. And think about the history, not just under Ryan Day, not just under Urban Meyer, but the history of all of the receivers at Ohio State. And I say receivers in general because the slot position and the frequency that Ohio State uses it, that's a newer thing. That's not the consistent thing that Ohio State has used all the time. And so I think about things that are consistent. Ohio State having elite outside receivers, that's a consistent staple for the Buckeyes offense. Quincy Porter can be that, standing at 6'3", 190 pounds, from Oradell, New Jersey, and Bergen Catholic High School. He is a top 50 player in the recruiting class, a 4-star prospect, number 49 overall total via 247 Sports composite rankings, the 8th best receiver in the class, and also he's the best player in the state of New Jersey. He is someone that when Brian Smith and I talk about him, we just can't stop talking about positive things. He's a second wide receiver commit at Ohio State. The other one is also a player that is, I believe, Desi Jones is from New Jersey. There's a Jersey connection, a lot of Jersey kids that are part of this recruiting class now. And I think this just goes to show that Brian Hartline has started something special at Ohio State. And guys like Desi Jones, guys like Quincy Porter, some of y'all may miss, and I do wish Javen Boggs was still committed to Ohio State, but you can't win them all. Some are going to commit and then go somewhere else. That's just a part of it. That's just a part of the game that we are currently dealing with in college football recruiting. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. And Quincy Porter, with him possibly being the next elite outside receiver, you may say, Jay, what traits does he currently have that make him a guy that you make that bold proclamation about? He is a reliable, and I mean extremely reliable, red zone threat. His route tree is not something that is new or that he's trying to figure out. No, it's actually one that's more advanced for someone at his height or at his age, but at 6'3", 190, let's just say it's 6'3", 205, 210, maybe 215 when he gets on the field consistently at Ohio State. It's possible, which is probably going to happen, that you get a year where it's Jeremiah Smith on one side, Quincy Porter on the other, depending on how quickly with Jeremiah Smith will be a player who has to play in 2026 before committing, before leaving for the NFL draft, and he has to play in 2025. I don't think Porter plays as a freshman, but it could be a scenario where Porter plays during his sophomore campaign at Ohio State, where Smith and Porter, and just the thought of how Porter I expect him to progress, how I think Porter will end up playing maybe a little bit earlier than some others. Woo! It could be a nightmare for the quarterback, for opposing defenses, that Ohio State has to face. Now, picking back on something I didn't really mention with the running backs earlier with Isaiah West, Ohio State currently has 2 running back commits at Ohio State in the current 2025 recruiting class cycle. The Buckeyes only have 2 wide receiver commits in this current cycle as well. So when I think about these 2 players and when they could get on the field, and how many players I think will be committed at these positions in the 2025 recruiting class, probably 3 running backs, but also probably 3 to 4 receivers. Like, it would not shock me if Hartline says we're going to get at least 3, maybe 4. I know Lachlan wants 3 backs because Jordan Davison is coming to Ohio State in the upcoming recruiting weekend, and it wouldn't shock me if Davison says, look, I know I'm from Cali. I know I'm here in Columbus, Ohio. I know I've taken all of these official visits. I know I am the best running back in the recruiting class. I got Bo Jackson. There's also already Isaiah West. These 2 guys are really, really talented. And if you're going to say you still want me when you got those 2 guys and you say, hey, there's a spot for me to play, whoo, sign me up. And also, if you add in Davis Sanders Jr. and other guys that are coming in, it's going to be fun. So I don't know. I think Sanders Jr. would be a part of the mix of old linemen that, Fry feels like it's a priority, which it should be. But I wouldn't be shocked if Harlan says 4 receivers, if Lachlan says 3 running backs in this cycle, and that's it. If at one point there was a recruiting class cycle, the recruiting class it's still more defensive players than offensive players. That's getting a little bit closer. We got 16 players committed overall. I believe it's 9 and 7, if I think my math is correct there. 9 defensive players, 7 offensive players. So it's a little bit closer than it was versus the 9 and 5 as it was earlier on Friday before Porter ended up committing to the Buckeyes. Telling you, man, it could be 9 and 9 at the end of this coming weekend. You're like, oh, wait, what happened? Well, it's just a process working itself out. Speaking of the process working itself out, I am very curious to hear more about what Ryan Day thinks about Lachlan's recruiting and his impact immediately on the recruiting side of things for the Buckeyes. Gotta wait for Day's comments later on. I'm going to share mine about Lachlan next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more. And you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. And maybe you were like me. You thought by the end of this previous weekend, the NBA Finals would have been over. The Stanley Cup Finals would have been over. Neither one of those has finished yet. They are playing still in both of those series. And head over to FanDuel to make some money on the next games as 2 teams try to win a trophy in the NHL, in the NBA. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Once again, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. One thing I love about what's going on at Ohio State is that the standard has stayed high. It has been high. It may be going up. It may be higher than it was previously. Why? Because it needs to be. One thing we know about teams right now in college football is with different teams, big-time brands like Oklahoma, like Texas and USC and Oregon and Washington, like these schools moving and shuffling conferences, you have to keep raising the standard, because if you don't, you might not win your conference. You might be on the one of those teams in the playoff that, one, you don't get a bye. Two, you may be a team that also does not get to host a playoff game, and you're really wondering, how did we get to this point in our history as a program? Because one, your standard wasn't high. And two, no matter if your standard is high or low, you're not raising said standard. Well, Ohio State is raising the standard higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And it's so high that a lot of schools out there are saying, how is Ryan Day getting this done? It's because he continues to make great hires. And one of them is Carlos Loughlin. Hiring Loughlin from Oregon may have been one of the best hires Ryan Day has made all offseason. And yes, I understand Chip Kelly is here. But Chip Kelly being here was one of those things that Chip Kelly being at Ohio State is partly because Bill O'Brien took another job. Because if Bill O'Brien didn't take another job, it's clear that Kelly was not going to come here earlier when there was an offensive coordinator search. No, that wasn't the case. And so what else did Ryan Day do? Kelly is in. Cool. Laurinaitis gets promoted. Cool. Matt Guerrieri is in. Replaces Perry Eliano. Cool. Ryan Day is making a lot of really good decisions. And I still think the biggest one is possibly Carlos Loughlin. I don't say it is the biggest one, because a lot of that has to happen on the field. And a lot of it is because, well, Ryan Day could be the offensive coordinator. He could call plays if he needs to. We're still waiting to see exactly what happens on the field when Ryan Day is not calling plays. We all have our thoughts and expectations and can speculate exactly what is going to happen. But, man, Carlos Loughlin's in charge of that room. There ain't nobody calling the shots. Who is the one recruiting that room? Carlos Loughlin. Yeah, you have to stay in lockstep with the head coach and Ryan Day, but Ryan Day trusts Loughlin to bring the right guys in the room, and he's doing that. He did it again. I think he'll do it again. And I'm not saying he's going to be able to get Jordan Davison to come to. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I believe he'll bring in more quality players to Columbus to join the Buckeyes 2025 recruiting class and 2026 recruiting class and 2027 and 2028 recruiting classes. And I literally hope that Carlos Loughlin is one of those guys that's here for a very, very, very long time. I think his name is Bud Foster, former longtime defensive coordinator at Virginia Tech. One thing you know about Bud Foster was he could have left Blacksburg to go to a different school to be a head coach, but no. What did he do? He got there. He had a really good buddy, friend, colleague that was a head coach that he worked alongside. And what else happened? What are you finding? He was comfortable in the role, stayed there. The money wasn't a question. He just did what he was great at. And I don't know if Loughlin has aspirations to be a head coach in college football one day or to be an offensive coordinator. I have no idea. But all I know is, just like Bud Foster, hey, I have plans right now to be here where I currently am, and this is all I can do is plan for now and plan for the future when expecting me to be here in the future. That's what Loughlin is doing. Loughlin is making sure he's making an immediate impact. He's doing what he's great at, and it's showing up right now. And for Ryan Day, a guy that many people question in certain areas of his job description and asking and wondering, was he getting everything done? I am one of those people. I am not speaking about other people right now and excluding myself. Go back and check the pods. Go back and check previous episodes. The everydayers have heard me say some different things, specific things, while being critical and analyzing Ryan Day in his tenure at Ohio State. Why? Because some things have not gotten done. Some things have been questioned. And myself, Jeff Hunt, Mo Murphy, we have all questioned some things about Ryan Day for years. One thing right now that we are seeing, at least in some of the summer workout videos and the recruiting, Ryan Day is changing a whole lot. Not changing a whole lot, but making the right tweaks. You ain't got to change a whole lot right now based off what Ryan Day has currently built. No, I'm not saying that the whole operation is broken and Ryan Day has to change his coaching style. He has to change some of the coaches. He has to go ahead and push a lot of guys to the portal because they're no. We ain't saying they can overhaul right now or change a whole lot of things. No, just maybe it's minor tweaks. Tweak that thing just a little bit. make it tighter. Maybe loosen that thing up a little bit. Give somebody else some more freedom. Tighten it, loosen it up, and what do you find? They is comfortable. Lachlan is comfortable. And it's showing up in the recruiting class. I went back and looked at the recruiting rankings via 247 Sports composite rankings right now. And when it looks like Ohio State team rankings, I want to go back and get it right on the right screen before I start saying something I should not say. Computer's working. Here we go. Currently, right now, the 2025 recruiting rankings for the team. This is 1 through 5. Ohio State is still number 1. Notre Dame is 2. Alabama 3. Georgia 4. Clemson 5. The one thing about Notre Dame that's very interesting is Notre Dame has 21 players currently committed. Ohio State has 16, Bama 15, Georgia 12, Clemson 13. I do believe Michigan's not even in the top 10. And Ohio State's honestly the only Big Ten team in the top 10 currently in the current recruiting cycle. Now, the one thing I want to highlight is what may be more important, which actually not maybe, it is more important than where Ohio State stands as far as ranking of the teams, the recruiting classes right now. Highest player average. Every recruiting database puts a score. I know 247 Sports does, puts a score on the player. And you can average them out via the players that are in that current recruiting class and saying, well, Ohio State's, and it's out of 100 via 247 Sports, the highest player average for the team right now, 94.84 is the average player score for the players that are currently committed to Ohio State's 2025 recruiting class. Number 2 is LSU at 93.81. Number 3 is Georgia, 93.44. Oregon is number 4, 93.29, and Bama's number 5 and 93.21. That's the quality you want from a recruiting class. Yes, I can understand if Ohio State was maybe 4 or number 5 or number 6 as far as the team rankings. But when you look at the average, maybe this should be exactly how they have everything, just average a score out. I don't look that far, not really my thing. But when Ohio State has a full point higher in a player average in LSU than everybody else, LSU is going to be good. Georgia's good. But what do you find when it comes to the average player score? LSU is going to be one of the better teams in the country. Top 10, top 12, could be a playoff team. Georgia is in my preseason top 3, not saying where they are. Some of y'all everydayers may know where I'm thinking right now when it comes to Georgia. Oregon is going to be one of the teams. Ohio State is continuing to play in the Big Ten championship game. Alabama has a new coach, but Kalen DeBoer is doing some things right there. Clemson, I think, is going to be one of those teams that is going to get back to some of their previous winning ways. USC is here. The one thing about Michigan, I'm going to throw them in here currently, their team ranking overall is 33rd. They have a 33rd best recruiting class right now. Now, their average player score is 92.01, but they only have 8 players currently committed, 7 4-stars, and the other is 1 3-star prospect. And so even though Michigan's right there at 92, they only got 8 players committed. Now, I know they're in an interesting spot when you have players leaving via the draft or graduation. You have a head coach who is going to the NFL. You have a new head coach, even though it's a promotion. He is still new. A lot of things shuffling that are maybe a little bit puzzling for some Michigan Wolverines fans. Maybe Ohio State fans, you're wondering, like, what's going on? They only got 8 players committed. They're behind the 8 ball. And I ain't mad about it, y'all. Fun to be back here on a Monday. I hope everybody, all the fathers out there, enjoyed their Father's Day weekend. My wife and I ended up going to church on Sunday morning at Traders Point there in Indianapolis, and then came home, and buddy, my wife and I both crashed. Took a nice long nap and ended up waking up, just lounging for the whole day. But no, it was a good day. Actually, I gotta give a shout out real quick. My wife got me this hat. Now you see the Dad Gang hat on my head right now. Got the red one that I'm pulling up, showing it to you. Got this Dad Gang hat, and I don't normally talk about hats that I get, but that's a special one. My wife got it for me prior to our son being born. First Father's Day celebrating that. But the red, it's a style. I mean, Dad Gang puts out good quality, and that's one of those hats I'll remember and cherish for a very long time. And don't don't be shocked if this thing is popping up in the show and 5-10 years down the road, you're like, wait, didn't Jay get that head a long time ago? He sure did. Y'all, I'm done rambling. You can follow me on X at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317 at gmail.com. We're out of here on a Monday, Buckeye fans. We will see you next time.